makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In this episode, we are going to have a conversation with Robbie Atkinson. She is a film director and the founder of RPX Media Production, an Atlanta-based production company. Good morning, Robbie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. I'm doing wonderful. How about you?
I am doing great. Thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation with you. And you are the CEO of RPX Media Production and president of a foundation. So you have been doing some amazing work, and I'm excited to know more about your adventures. So can you tell us what led you to this career path?
Oh boy. So I guess I should start by saying when I graduated from college, I did not intend to start a company. I remember when I graduated, so I ended up getting my master's degree in digital production downtown at Georgia State University. And I had envisioned myself working with like a major studio, especially the ones that were based here in Georgia that were like located in Fayetteville. There were a number of really reputable ones, like going to school. I remember walking to class, I would see them filming the Avengers. Like there's a scene in the Avengers that like I could identify because I saw that scene filmed on my campus, right? So I envisioned my life kind of working on someone else's set. And I think the reality of what it's like trying to get a job after you graduate hit me when I applied for several months. Almost every day would submit 3 to 4 to 5 resumes. I never heard back from anybody. Was told I didn't have enough
Wow.
experience, not enough this, not enough that. And I had a master's degree, and that meant nothing, especially in the creative field. And so I think that I more or less started RPX. It was something in the back of my mind that I thought to myself I'd like to do one day, but I never thought I'd be ready to do it. And I think that I ended up getting a job working as a paraprofessional, like a teaching assistant. And that job was challenging, but not fulfilling enough. So I ended up picking up another side job working for a company that brought K-pop idols to Atlanta. And witnessing this small company comprised of like 7 women who were like in their early 20s, and they came together and they would bring these major K-pop idols to Atlanta. They'd host these concerts and events. They all had day jobs. And I think being in that environment and seeing that if you had a team that really was dedicated enough, you could accomplish a lot. I think that really inspired me and made me realize like, you know, you can try with RPX, and even if you face your challenges, if you have the right team, you can overcome it. And I think that really helped give me that extra push to go out and try to start RPX. So that's where that came from. And then I'd say FIRE really came from just the climate of 2020. Like when George Floyd was killed, there was just a lot of conversation going on that I realized I was kind of seeing the blind spots, the social blind spots between different communities. And I was realizing that no one had ever really brought communities together before to address something like racial trauma, because most people didn't even know racial trauma existed, right? So I wanted to start
Right.
FIRE to address that. And I've been doing those two since.
So can you collaborate more on the services and also what all the things that RPX's media production is doing?
Mm, sure. So so when we first started off, we did a lot of concert promotion, like tour. For example, we had a famous rapper named like Doki, and he had a concert where he was coming to Atlanta, and we created the overall like promotional tour video, several different teasers for it. We filmed this concert, so I got to meet Doki, which was a very famous Korean rapper that like I remember listening to when I was in college. And when the pandemic hit, a lot of live events were shut down, and a lot of companies were put on hold or they kind of tanked during that time. And I'd say that was really the time when, in order to keep RPX busy, we started to branch out. Now, I originally, and still do, and we are currently planning for cinematic projects, but I started to veer into other aspects of commercial work. So we do music videos. Aside from promotional and tour videos, we do music videos, any other kind of commercial. We've done commercials for restaurants. And we've even done like dance videos that were filmed like music videos and worked with artists and choreographers.
Mm.
A number of our projects, a number of our initial projects were done in collaboration with Peacemaker, which is a Korean choreography company. And they've worked with Blackpink, they've worked with BTS, they've worked with Bobby, they've worked with Jessie. I mean, you name, if they're a famous Korean artist right now, he's more than likely worked with them. And he was a colleague I met through the concert videography work that I did. So we were right now, we've been very heavy into that aspect of commercial work, but aside from that and feature work, we're also looking into animation and webtoons as well. So we have some projects that are
Mm.
underway, planning for that as well.
Wow, you have a lot on your shoulder.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But it's a good exercise. It keeps me on my toes.
So you still with both of your with your foundation and plus your company, you still working a full-time job right now, right?
So, no, when the pandemic hit, I ended up walking away from my full time job as a paraprofessional assistant, and I went full time, leaned full time into RPX, into FIRE. And really, that was a bit of a rough period of kind of like extended periods of time where we really didn't have any clients, and a lot of our work was kind of like just self-initiated projects because people don't want to give you an opportunity until they see what you can do. So we kind of had to just showcase what we could do. And then
Mm-hmm.
as we put out more projects, people started to approach us and say, "Hey, would you be interested in filming this video?" Or, "Hey, if we wanted a music video, could you do this?" Or, "Can you help us with this documentary vlog?" And that was how we started to get work. And even now, we have an artist group that we've been working with, a pop group named After Dark, and it's been a phenomenal experience working with them. But that is how they found us. Um, and so, yes, did that answer your question, or did I miss on anything?
Yes. No,
Mm,
you did. You did. Because I was
mhm.
just still wondering if you still doing the full time and plus still running. Because I was going to say that's a lot of work to manage all of these things and still working a full time job.
You know what? I think working full time, I was like, when I was working full time, I was doing RPX at the same time while also working that other side job. And I remember this is how my day would typically go. I would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I would get ready, do my breakfast, bathe, shower, head out, because where I used to work, my last job that I had as a paraprofessional was in Roswell, Georgia. And so I would then have to take like almost a 2 hour drive to work. I'd get to work around like 7. I'd work from 7 until 3. And I worked with the autistic EBD, emotional behavioral disorder, the autistic unit. So I worked with those students that were a little bit more challenging for the head teachers to focus on, as they had a class full of like 35 kids. So I was the person who was their one on one. So I would do that until 3 p.m. And then I would sometimes leave that job, drive from Roswell to Duluth, and then go and film a concert or go and attend a meeting for the other event promotion job. And sometimes I would fit RPX in during my lunch break. During my lunch break, instead of sitting down and talking, I'd actually be in like another teacher's room on the computer, sending out emails, trying to coordinate things, bring the team together. And that was my day. Like my day would end around like sometimes 9, 10, 11, get home around like 1 or 2, sometimes sit up and edit until like 3, go to sleep and wake back up at 4. So there were several periods of time where I was getting 2 hours of sleep max. And when the pandemic hit, I came to the realization that it was best if I really just gave my heart to RPX to see what it could become, to see what we could bring to fruition. And that was when I decided to leave the classroom, and I've not looked back since. Yeah,
What would you say that was the best decision you made?
I would say during the pandemic times, that actually worked really well because everything had transitioned to remote. Everything had transitioned to shelter in place, work on your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
So working from home was kind of the norm at that time. And even now, we're still kind of transitioning back into in person, as people also maintain the integrity of the digital workspaces that they had. I think that if I could do one thing a little bit different, and I did do this, but I did it more so later on, which I also still do occasionally. But I eventually got called onto some major film sets. So years after I graduated from college, years later, I got called on to be a production assistant with major productions for like Nickelodeon and for like Showtime, like a number of larger productions. I was on set for like MacGyver, and I would go on set like these really big budget productions and do little things, little tasks to kind of fill in the gaps in my day play. And if I had known that that was an option, or if I could have met the right person sooner, I actually probably would have tried to do that sooner. I think the only caveat to that is the film industry even halted at some point. And part of the reason why I got onto film sets is because I was COVID PA, COVID production assistant. So I would go around, make sure everyone had their masks, give people hand sanitizer, make sure that everyone was following regulation, make sure that anyone who got onto the film set had already did, because there's a big, long, extensive process for like COVID testing. You have to get tested. You had to get swabbed every day. You had to sit in the parking lot and wait for like an hour sometimes
Wow.
for your results to come back. Yes. And so they needed people to facilitate that process. And then once that was done, then you were brought back onto like the main set to help out with the key production assistant or help out with the background actors. I remember working on the set of what is it, the First Ladies. It was a series with Viola Davis, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Dakota Fanning, and working with background actors and having like 50 actors to kind of like watch over and try to say, okay, no, you have to go here. Here's the bathroom. You're supposed to go there. Like that was a lot, but it was necessary experience that helped me be able to kind of take away and put into RPX and figure out, okay, so this is the norm for a film set. What are some things that I like? What are some things that I think I can change? And honestly, if I could have done it differently, I would have done that sooner. But I think the time period would not have allowed that because the film industry itself had just paused. So I don't have any regrets.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't think you have any regrets. I think that you love what you do and that's your passion.
Hmm.
And at the beginning, like when you mentioned, you say something about your if you have a great team, then you can make it. And I think that your team is your backbones helping you making it to make sure things work out perfectly.
Yes, they really are. They're all phenomenal. They're all amazing, and they're all very like I'm very grateful because the team is such that like I am someone where whenever we do a project, I like each project to be a step up from the previous one, or at least in some way force us out of our comfort zone. And the team, like we've done projects where we experimented with like overhead projectors, like on the wall, and changing up the lighting with that. We've done projects where we recently did a project that was really supposed to have been like a 12-hour shoot, and we did it in 6, and we pulled it off. The team came together. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, no, the team is amazing. My director of photography, her name is Tina Somphone, and she's been phenomenal. She's a very good friend of mine from college, and we've been through a lot. You know, we've grown, we've been through a lot, and I'm very grateful for them.
Wow, you seem to have a very great team, and I think that's one of the things that any companies will always need that because we always think that we can do everything on our own, but at the end of the day, we need a team that can make it happen because we are one human being. One human being can do that much. Really, it's impossible. So I'm just happy to hear it from someone else.
No, yeah, I that was another thing that I gradually learned, like the power of delegation and the power of like, okay, if this person's strength is in this area, this person's strength is in this area, how can you bring them together and get them to work to accomplish this goal? Rather than complaining and saying, "Oh, I wish you could do this." Bringing people together, delegating, and giving them specialized tasks will get you a lot farther. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and a company really is like a child. So you have to rely on the
Hmm.
strengths of every person. You can't do everything yourself. And it wouldn't be, truth be told, there would be no reward for doing it all yourself because you don't get to build relationships that way.
Exactly. So with your foundation, FIRE, can you tell us more about it? What exactly? How does it help people, and how can people get involved into it as well?
Mm. So, FIRE, which is the acronym for the Foundation for Interethnic Restoration, is essentially a nonprofit organization that's comprised of, by the way, a wide variety of people on my team. I have people who are from China, I've had people from Turkey, from Nigeria, from Bangladesh. I have people currently in Dubai who are volunteering with us remotely.
Wow.
And so we pull this team together and we help raise awareness about racial literacy, how you can use social, emotional, psychological, historical information to be an anti racist ally to people, and essentially bring people together to address their racial trauma, identify it, discover it, acknowledge it, and then figure out ways to overcome it. And then talk between communities about this racial tension. Like, okay, this is this is a form of racial trauma that is internalized because of this historical event and this current event. So what can we do between communities to help them overcome that trauma, be an ally to them, and also have our needs met as well? No one has had that conversation in the how many years America has existed, over 250.
Mm-hmm.
No one has had that conversation, despite the fact that America had the worst kind of slavery, chattel slavery, for the longest period of time. I think the only country that outlasted American slavery was Brazil. Um, in the country that has the most diverse ethnic backgrounds with the worst problems with racism, right? Which we saw within the past couple of years. No one has sat down and tried to have these conversations where we're bringing different communities together. Sometimes it's like, okay, we focus on the Black community. Sometimes they focus on the Asian community. Sometimes they focus on the respectives. But what about bringing everyone together? Because again, you can try to do it all by yourself, but you don't
Ooh,
make up the majority of this country, right? We need everyone's hand in the pot to be able to stir.
right.
So that's what we're trying to do. And we try to help people through our live discussions. So we have something called our fireside chats, where we bring in mental health professionals, people who are experts in their field. We've talked about gaslighting, we've talked about uh, coping from racial trauma through like perfectionism, through addiction. We're going to be having part twos to a lot of those conversations. And we just allow people to chime in, attend the live stream, listen to the discussion, put in their feedback, and kind of pull from it what they will, what helps them. Because there's some people who want to talk about these issues, but they're told, stop talking about race. You sound like you're complaining. Or people who want to talk about these issues, but they're told, oh,
Mm,
you're racist if you talk about this, because somehow colorblind has now translated to, oh, you shouldn't talk about race. And I think with the way things went the past year or so, that mentality has changed. But a lot of people feel that talking about race is it's stigmatized. And so they don't want to talk about it. A lot of people are shy, so to speak. So we open up that ground, we destigmatize it, and we allow people to come to us and say, hey, I have these things that I'd like to sort through. Can I talk to you? Can I talk to one of your mental health professionals? And we're also trying to have fundraisers and events where we also raise awareness about racial trauma, racial literacy, things like that.
so when you have the live stream, do you also bring professionals that can come and then answer certain questions for people, or are you planning on doing that if you are not doing it already?
Mm, we are actually already doing that. Normally, when people pose their questions, so we have our list of pre-prepared questions, but of course, the audience tends to think of things between the cracks that we wouldn't even consider. So we have that mental health professional there, and people will normally chime in and ask questions, and the mental health professional can answer that, can address that, and offer a academic
Mm,
and scientific perspective or insight into a certain issue that we're discussing or a certain question that's raised.
okay, that is what is, with everything. Even when you talk about joy, everything that happened. Seriously, I saw a side of America I never seen in a long time
Hmm.
for the past few years, and
Hmm.
we were focusing on things that we were not supposed to be focusing on. Especially, we are dealing with a virus that was killing way too many people in our country.
Right.
We're supposed to be the number one country in the world, and I felt like we failed.
Hmm.
And the reason why we failed is because we didn't come together. We went against one another. Instead, we
Hmm.
went fighting black, white, yellow, pink, and then we just create so many different things that's not necessary at the moment, and we just keep on fighting. And I
Hmm.
felt like it wasn't important to be fighting at that moment.
Hmm.
We could have put a hold on that fight and focusing on saving people's lives instead. But but saying that, what do you feel about all that? Like, I mean, like, what do you feel about everything that just happened? Do you feel like we could have handling a better way instead of fighting with one another, or do you think that we're supposed to go through that moment to get to a better one?
Honestly, a little bit of both of what you said. I feel honestly that things could have been handled better, that a lot of things could have been put into place. A lot of things could have been relayed differently. And we could go back and we could rehash out everything that should have been done better. But it was also essential that we went through that phase as a country, because I heard someone say that year 2020 was the year of perfect clarity and vision. This is where everything that has been deeply rooted in American society was brought out into the daylight for everyone to see, the whole world to see. And everything that could be improved was made plain, was made visible, was made evident, to where now there has to be discussion. You see, because before now, I think people have, with any kind of social issue, any kind of any issue at all, I think that people have had quiet discourse between their friend group, and then maybe there's a bit of running around in circles in a political sense, right? Um, this was something that could not be avoided. This was something that cannot be hidden. And so now it's almost like people have tried to handle things as quietly as possible, and someone just raised it up in the air for everyone to see. So now you have no choice but to very deliberately, very
Mm-hmm.
overtly, and very plainly come up with problem solving, some kind of solution process for the problems that we are facing within American society. And I mean, I could call out everything from the elections to the insurgents to the protests to the xenophobic attacks to the amount of people who passed away. I mean, there was so much packed into just year 2020, 2021 alone that I'm sure we'll have plenty of stories to tell many generations long after this time has passed, right? But I think that this process was 100% necessary. It was 100% necessary. I hate that it had to be that way, but
I agree with you on that.
mhm.
Yes, I think that it was the wrong time, but yes, because we were only in too much pain already. It's like we get hit by a virus we were not ready for, and our country wasn't handling it the proper way either. Then on top of that, we had all of this drama. I felt like it was a lot. And but you are absolutely right about it. We're supposed to go through it, and hopefully that we can use that to make the world better for the next generation.
Mhm.
With that say, I know that you said you will be doing a fundraising.
Mhm.
The fundraising you'll be doing, are you going to be using that to create more live stream and things like that? What is the purpose of the fundraising?
So the fundraising is more or less to gather resources so that we can. So most people do not know FIRE is not your typical 501c3, which is the categorization, the tax exempt categorization of the majority of nonprofit organizations in the US. FIRE is actually a 501c4, which means that we have lobbying power. It means that beyond just our conversations, we can actually try to push for change on another level aside from grassroots, right? And so
Hmm.
we collect our funding, and we are trying to have these fundraisers for two main goals. One, to get people to actually have some kind of an actionable takeaway. So when you talk about racial trauma, when you talk about racial literacy, people say, okay, so how can I help? How can I help, and how can I make a difference through your organization? A lot of people tend to want to know this. Our fundraisers, which tend to be a little bit more event based, are a way for people to get involved, put their hands on, learn, take from that experience, and be able to go and talk to other people and have a better sense, a more refined sense of racial literacy, a better sense of what racial trauma is, and a better sense of their own mastery of their own trauma. Right. So that is the one part of our events and
Mm-hmm.
why we're having it and why we try to make it community based so that people can participate. The other half is as an organization so that we can, one, kind of reinvest that back into our events, but also to kind of finance our team, because right now FIRE is actually, as amazing as this team has been, what I find even more mind-boggling is that they have all been volunteers up until this point. We've had over 119 people request to join an organization and work with us, and they've all been
Wow.
volunteers. Right. And I would like to eventually be able to compensate them for their work, but also be able to funnel some of our money into potential lobbying opportunities to facilitate that change. Do you see what I'm saying? Because it's not enough to simply talk about what we'd
Yes.
like to see changed. We sometimes will have to be the ones to take that step. And that requires a whole other stratosphere, sometimes from our, like I said, average grassroots level. And so that's where the majority of the money comes from.
Yes. And you know what? A lot of people don't realize it. Even if it's a nonprofit, the nonprofit still need money to survive.
Exactly.
Like you said, people are volunteering their time, but if you can pay them, then they can spend more time within the organization to
Hmm.
actually help the organization grow a bit faster.
Hmm.
Then volunteering, that's when they giving you a certain amount of their time, and they still need to go out and work somewhere to make money so they can pay the bills.
Hmm.
But why not the organization hiring them full time so that they can do something they enjoy doing, and at the same time they can take care of the families, and they don't have to worry about I can't pay my bills. So I think
Exactly.
I see where you're going with that. So how do people donate to the organization?
Okay,
How can
so
someone donate to you?
we have our on our homepage, literally as soon as you click on the homepage, the first thing you see in the banner is the donate button. You can literally click that. It'll take you to the donate page. It'll give you a description of like why you should donate, how the money is going to be utilized. And that has even more of a thorough breakdown than what I just relayed. And then it has several different buttons where you can choose to donate $5, $10, $15, or a custom amount. You can choose to be a monthly donor. That donate page, either through that button on our homepage or literally the tab at the top of our website, will take you to the donation area, and you can donate via PayPal. We also accept Zelle, and we also accept any kind of donation, monetary donation via check to our PO box, which is PO Box 429, Smyrna, Georgia 381. Shameless plug, but yes, those are the ways that we're kind of trying to open ourselves up, and that's also again the fundraisers. Some people really think that donating to an organization just has to be monetary. Our volunteers are donating their time, and that is kind of a time donation. We've had artists who wanted to donate like a performance to one of our
Mm-hmm.
fundraisers. They wanted to do like an opening act, or like an opening performance, and we have many different ways that we allow for people to give to us because everyone's contribution is different, and so we want to be able to respect that.
Exactly. So if you don't have the money, you can donate your time, and because your time worth the money as well. Loving it. So with your company, RPX Media Production, do you work only with artists, music video? I mean, like singers or movies and things like that, or you can also work with, like, let's say that a corporation are looking to do a. Let's give an example of McDonald's. I'm loving it. So let's say McDonald's want to do a video. Can you work with corporations or even small businesses to create like a commercial or anything like that for them?
Yes, and we have in the past. I mentioned earlier that we did a small kind of promotional video for a franchise called Kung Fu Tea, and it was for the particular location. I think that was in Johns Creek at the time. And yes, I mean we did that. We had a lot of fun with it. It was really interesting doing the research to kind of pull that video together. But anyways, yes, we are open to things like that. We work with the majority of artists, just because a lot of what we do also like kind of tailors around branding, and artists tend to want like photo album put together for their newest like EP, and then they tend to want a photo shoot, they tend to want a music video. Sometimes one of our artists said they wanted like a webtoon series as like another form of like branding for themselves. So what we offer really goes hand in hand with that, but that work in general, it fits under our commercial sector. So we have our feature sector, commercial sector, animation and design sector, and a lot of commercial work, a lot of the promotional videos, the advertisements, music videos, those all fit under commercial for us. So we are definitely open to that.
Okay. So let's say that someone just want a photo shoot. Do you provide just that without
Yes,
any videos or anything like that?
we sure do. Honestly, sometimes people already have somebody lined up for, say, the videography, but they really like our vision and our artistic style. They will oftentimes approach us and say, hey, I saw that you guys did this photography shoot and it came out really well. I like the aesthetic. Can you do something like that for me? Or I really want to try something different. I think you guys have the artistic skill and vision. Would you be willing to try? We have also done that. So that I think what makes us, because RPX on our
Okay.
Instagram page is considered a hybrid company, and it's that we're a little more wide reaching. So that is where that phrase comes in.
Awesome. So I'm sure your journey has not been without challenges. Being a woman in business,
Mhm.
sometimes we face many challenges starting a business, especially
Mhm.
being a businesswoman of color. What kind of challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them?
Hmm. So, one of the major challenges that I've run into is because our work is remote for both the nonprofit, like especially just because it was born in the middle of the pandemic, and then RPX, which really did not start to pick up until the pandemic started, the complete opposite of most people. One of our major challenges was that our people see the name Robbie Atkinson, and they have a certain image of what they expect a Robbie Atkinson to look like. So when they see a black female in her late 20s show up, I've gotten reactions where I showed up to people's office and they said, "Oh, are you the secretary?" they didn't think that I owned the company. They said,
Wow.
"Oh, so do you? Who are you again?" I was like, "I'm the owner. I'm the nice to meet you." You put my hand out. They're like, "Oh," and I got that all throughout college. Oftentimes, professors assume that Robbie Atkinson was a white male, but the reaction normally, and sometimes the way, the direction of the conversation after the reaction has occasionally, like, there's a marked difference once they see you. But I mean, honestly, I am not too phased by that, because the way I see it is, if you looked at our work online and you thought that it was professional, you like the artistic vision, you respect the skill, the mastery, whatever you see you like, then it won't matter to you what our skin color is. And if it does, then quite frankly, I don't really want them as a customer either. If they're going to judge me based on that, because for every person who makes a negative assessment or a negative judgment, there are two other people who will make a positive one that we can work with. So that is kind of the mindset that I've used to overcome that challenge. Um, Another challenge that I've had, I think, more or less, the fact that a lot of people who go into business tend to have like mentors who are like right alongside them, telling them, "Oh, I would do this if I were you," or "I'd set it up like this."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that. I came from school with a digital production communications master's degree. I didn't learn anything about business, and anything I know, I had to learn by watching other people, by reading articles, by watching videos, kind of listening to different people and keeping my ear to the ground, and even finding, like, there's a Slack group called iPhone Women, and like being part of that group and kind of listening to the advice that people give, having to learn a lot of things of your own volition and your own research. Because there are some kids who go to school, they get a degree in business, so when they leave, they can immediately get a managerial position because they already
Mm-hmm.
know everything about KPIs and this and that and project management. All of that, it was all forged by fire for me. Forged by fire, not fire the organization, but fire, like actual fire. Like, I had to, it was a process to really learn, but I can't complain.
Do you feel like if you had a chance to start over, the first thing you will have get is a mentor?
I think that would have made a huge difference, because even if they don't offer advice about how to start the business, there are a lot of emotional and psychological aspects to running a business as well, that people don't consider. Any problem that you have within your personal life, and they say, "Oh, compartmentalize, keep everything separate," and it's not that you don't keep it separate, it's that whatever bad habits you have in your personal life sometimes bleed into your professional life. If you have a habit of
Yes.
being controlling in your personal life, guess what kind of manager you're going to be in your professional life. If you lack confidence in one area, sometimes it shows up in another. And so having someone to even walk you through the process of, like, because being a company owner means that you have to have a level of resilience, punctuality, communication skills, patience. You have to have these things that most people do not have. It's like an athlete, right? Olympic athletes can sprint a
Mm-hmm.
quarter mile in like under 10 seconds. And we're like, how do they do that? Right? No, I don't think it's 10 seconds. It's probably like 45 seconds or 30. But, but like, they can do these things that are physically demanding and almost seem
Yeah.
impossible to everyone else, right? But they can do that because they have gone through the trial process of constantly challenging their muscles. And as a business owner and entrepreneur, these muscles get challenged. And when you don't really have anybody there who can relate to how you feel, sometimes what you hear is, "Oh, stop complaining. You're lucky. At least you have this." And it feels very much like no one understands where you're
Mm-hmm.
coming from. So having a mentor, even just for those psychological or emotional aspects, I mean, that would have made a very big difference to me. I find myself being that for other people now. People coming to me saying, "Oh my gosh, I feel this way." And I'm like, "Drink your water, make sure you exercise, and then do ABC." And then, it ends up working. And they're like, "Thank you. I'm so glad I have you." And I think to myself, yeah, I wish I had someone to tell me that when I was starting. I had to learn that by tripping and falling on my face. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, your industry does not. There are not a lot of women in your industry. So, why do you think that?
Because in the film industry, it's very much about who you know. And if you do not deliberately go out of your way to meet people and get within a certain network, it'll be very difficult to break in and get access to certain resources. Very difficult to even get access to certain opportunities. Um, And oftentimes too, being a person of color, being a Black woman, you will be overlooked. People will automatically assume that you don't know what you're talking about. People will automatically assume that they know more than you, and
Mm-hmm.
they will be very quick to overlook you because of that. I remember being in college and having colleagues, like white males in my class who were on my group project, who, when we were on set, wouldn't even let you talk. They would cut you off and try to say, okay, we're not going to do that. Shush, be quiet. We don't want to do that. We're going to do this. And I had to confront them and say,
Wow.
I know just as much as you. And here's the funny thing is, sometimes when they didn't listen to us, our grades came out lower because they assumed that they knew what they were doing and everyone else's opinion was ignored. But I say that to say, you have to be able to fight and you have to be resilient enough to keep looking for opportunities if you feel that you have been locked out. And then there are also, I've had some experiences where I did freelance work and I walked in and the head photographer didn't know how to use her equipment. And she came up to me and she said, "Hey, so how do you do this? And
Wow.
hey, can I borrow your equipment? And can I?" And if you're not careful in that kind of situation, when they fail, you get the blame. And that is something that I think a lot of people of color can also experience, where when you're put under somebody who is mediocre at best, or just simply just doesn't know as much as your typical superior in that position should, you end up doing the work for them and they get praised, or you do the work, something goes wrong, and then you get pushed below even further. So you have to be strategic
Yeah.
with how you position yourself, what opportunities you take, very strategic with the boundaries that you set. You have to be very charismatic. You have to know how to say the right thing to the right person and still maintain true and grounded to yourself. How far are you willing to go? Where are your boundaries? How do you assert that? What are your other options if this goes wrong? And that is how you're having to constantly think. And a lot of people of color, a lot of Black people in the industry don't know that, or they're either having to, like me, just create their own opportunity. I am fortunate that someone called my name so that I could be brought onto some of these major film sets. Most people don't get that opportunity. Most people have to start from scratch. And when they start from scratch,
Yes.
they don't have the best equipment, they don't have the best network, and it takes them so much longer.
Yes, especially as Black, we seems to always get the you know, all the bad things fall under us and all the good things fall under other people. I don't know why. Even if we like the things, sometimes we create great things in this world, but for some reason we don't get credit for them. I don't know why. But that's just the way it is. And I think that's something that we need to work hard and change that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, with what you're just saying, do you feel that eventually with RPX, that's something that you will work on to make a change so that women can have a voice in the industry and then especially women of color?
Mm. I envisioned that I would do something like that. Honestly, a really small way that we have been kind of making a change is our film crews tend to be entirely people of color, and a lot of, like, for example, my director of photography is a woman. Me being a female director, having like female makeup artists, having a lot of, and it's not that actually we did not deliberately go out of our way to do this. It kind of just worked out this way that like our BTS photographer is female. Sometimes our PAs are female. Sometimes we have like female choreographers on set. And I mean, things have changed now. We have more guys integrated in, but trying to offer those opportunities to women of color that we see really do have that potential, who really do have that talent, that's something that I do try to always look out for. I've reached out to illustrators that were like based in Atlanta, and I've said, "Hey, let's collaborate. I see that you're based in Atlanta. I see all of these things about you. Let's see how we can help each other." And that goes right back to building relationships, utilizing RPX to help build relationships for people at different walks of life in the creative path. But farther down the road, as RPX gets bigger, as we've done more projects, as we have a farther reach, I do envision that we will be doing a lot more. I can't quite imagine what that will be, but I would like to. You know the saying, when you climb up the ladder and you reach the top, make sure you look down and you help somebody else up. I would like for
Mm-hmm.
RPX to be able to do that as well. So most definitely.
I love the idea behind it already.
Ah, thank you, thank you. Look.
So that brings me to with RPX, how can someone get your services?
Mm. So interestingly enough, we've had quite a few people reach out to us on Instagram. I don't really understand. I mean, I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around the whole algorithm for Instagram. It's constantly changing. It's like a Rubik's cube that everyone that's like closer to 30 is just really tired of and can't stand it. But like the younger kids love it and they love taking on that challenge. So I'm constantly trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing to make sure that we're visible. And we've had quite a few clients approach us from Instagram, just because they see our posts. But in the occasion that they don't, on our website, we do have an inquiry tab. And you click on the inquiry tab, then you can like click request a quote or contact us. There's a number of buttons that pop up, and you can very easily, it's also shoot us an email at rpxmediaproductions@gmail.com, as well, aside from that page on our website. And you can tell us what you have in mind. It immediately takes you to a form. You can describe what you have in mind, what kind of project you have, how long you want it to be, like fill in as much detail, and even schedule like a consultation, all from like online. It's better when you do it online because you can kind of get through a lot more and immediately schedule. And we allow people to pick what days work best for them on a calendar. And I mean, they book it, we have the link, we show up and we talk to them. We try to get a feel for what it is that they envision.
Okay. So, any word of advice for female business owners who are trying to make it out there?
I would say that there's going to be a time when you're on your process, when you're going through your process, where you will be working harder and longer than everyone else. There will be times when your team is resting and you're working. There will be times when most people are out partying and you're working. There may be sacrifices that you'll have to make, but there's two important things to remember. Decide where that boundary is, what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not willing to sacrifice. Build in rest and self-care into your schedule. Do not let yourself get run to the ground trying to keep everything running. Build your team so that it can run when you are resting. This is point one. But two, understand that anything worth having will not come easy, and it will take work, and it'll take resilience, and it'll take you exercising that communication skills, patience skills, time management skills, project management skills, but it will all be worth it in the long run. It's a matter of time. Just give it time, be patient, and keep at it. Be persistent. That's what I suggest.
Well said.
Thank you. Look, I try.
Very
Thank
well
you.
said.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robbie, for taking the time to have this conversation with me. I appreciate it. And I appreciate what you are doing with FIER. And also RPX, I think it's a great company, especially as a woman of color to decided to take that step and be in that world, that industry. It's a big challenge, and I'm grateful to see you doing it. Eventually, more Black women will follow so that we can create a bigger footstep there as well. And I appreciate what you are doing and all the advice and all the support that you are giving to people all over the world. You know, you are building a great team where you are giving them a purpose. And I think that we need that.
Thank you. I'm just grateful that people see these ideas and they're willing to join on, because I couldn't take credit for what I'm doing, in that like I may have conceptualized the idea, but there's a percentage of everything that we accomplish that is a result of someone else who's on our team. And so I am incredibly grateful to my team, and I'm just grateful. That's all I can say, is I'm so grateful to them and everyone who's believed in me. So
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to share with us before I let you go?
no, I mean, honestly, I have to say that it really is just an honor to be able to do this interview. Actually, fun fact, so this is the day after my birthday. Like yesterday was literally my birthday. I'm officially 28 years old now. So yeah, this is an excellent opportunity. Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful birthday treat for me. I appreciate it.
You are welcome, and happy belated birthday. Sorry I missed that. And I'm just going to say happy birthday.
Yes, look, it's a week long, between you and me, it's a week long celebration. So it's not too late. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, it's not so late. You are welcome. Wow, kudos to you, Robbie, for taking the lead and start a media production company. You are opening doors for more women to enter the television and film industry. Thank you, Robbie, for taking the time to have this conversation with me. Let me know your thoughts about this episode with Robbie. And to learn more about Robbie and RPX Media Production, visit www.rpxmediaproduction.com. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.